patiently waiting on my dreams to come true, hoping and praying one day that they do. Oh, I don't know how, and I don't know when, just patiently waiting till then. Patiently waiting each day that goes by, staring out windows at stars in the sky, imagining one day I'll be one of them, but patiently waiting till then. Maybe I'm wasting time, maybe I've lost my mind, maybe this whole thing is a joke and no one let me know. Still I'm patiently waiting with you by my side, trusting one day that I can provide the life you've deserved but never demand. Oh, patiently waiting till then, the life you've deserved but never demand. Patiently waiting till then.
Hi there, my name is Clint Betts. I'm excited to talk to you all today about community. In my opinion, the word community has been stretched, commodified, and applied to everything from brand loyalty programs to social media followings. In the process, its meaning has been diluted. It's time to reclaim it. To accomplish this, I'd like to address three key questions that today's community leaders need to wrestle with. Those questions are: what is community? Should I attach my identity to the communities I belong to? And what am I responsible for? Let's begin with what is community. There are likely as many answers to the question, what is a community, as there are communities. I will share my definition, but I want to be clear that my own experiences building and leading communities for over 15 years shape it. It's also my definition of a strong, cohesive community, a community for good, not evil. Here's my definition. Community emerges when free individuals come together as equals, unburdened by hierarchy or dependency. So, this definition obviously requires further explanation. First, a community can only exist if everyone is free to leave whenever they choose without facing consequences, social or otherwise. If leaving a group has negative consequences, again, social or otherwise, then that isn't a community, at least by my definition, because it doesn't consist of free individuals. You should also notice that I said everyone should be free to leave, not free to join. A strong, cohesive community can exist whether it's open or closed. Now, let me explain what I mean by equals in the context of community. It comes from a Christian ethic, which I admittedly adhere to, that teaches no one matters more than you and you don't matter more than anyone else. It doesn't refer to achieving equity in wealth, talents, contributions, or any other subjective metric. Now let's touch on why a community must be unburdened by hierarchy or dependency. This is likely the most complex and maybe even confusing aspect of my definition. Let's start with hierarchy. I want to be clear, communities need hierarchy. It just shouldn't be a burden. Strong communities require strong leadership, leaders who bear a disproportionate amount of responsibility. However, a hierarchy becomes a burden and thus no longer a community when leaders disregard benevolence and begin to use the power of a community to achieve outcomes unrelated to the community's mission or purpose, usually for selfish purposes. It's important to understand this, and I think we all understand it to some degree, maybe less so than we should. Leaders shouldn't be worshiped. If a community exists solely for the benefit of its leader, that is not a community. That's a cult. Leaders also shouldn't matter more than anyone else in the community. In fact, leaders should be held to a higher standard and live by the creed, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. This leads to avoiding dependency. All right, so social media has conditioned us to believe that having followers is a good thing. In reality, followers, when they're just dependents, weaken a community's core. A strong, cohesive community cannot thrive if it is split into distinct groups of leaders and followers. Free people, not followers, create community. When everyone involved in that community is treated as a leader who has earned their seat at the table, well, that's when you have a community. It's critically important to remember this principle. No one matters more than you, and you don't matter more than anyone else. Now let's talk about events, something that I've done a lot of over my career. The great Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw was at a party one night when the host approached him and asked, "Are you enjoying yourself, Mr. Shaw?" He replied, "Yes, and that's the only thing I'm enjoying." Shaw's quip exposes the emptiness of gatherings where people are present but not genuinely connected, where the room is filled with opportunists seeking advantage, not free individuals coming together as equals, unburdened by hierarchy or dependency. So, let me be very clear. Events are not a community. And communities don't consist of followers. A person who depends on others for access, validation, success, or happiness will eventually want to break free from this reliance. Nobody wants to be a follower. Nobody wants to be the one mid-conversation watching their partner's eyes drift over their shoulder for someone better. Followers aren't free. They rely on others, giving up control of their destiny. That's what sheep do. That's not what communities do. True community rejects this dependency. It thrives on freedom instead. In our own lives, we understand that when we treat another person with respect and dignity, our relationship with that person will be productive and meaningful. The same holds true in community. When you treat a fellow human being as a leader, the boundaries of what can be accomplished diminish. Now, it is essential to understand that this ideal, my definition of community, is fragile and often undermined by success, perception, and power, particularly when individuals gather not as equals, but as opportunities. So let me give you a sense, and you've probably all experienced this, any of you who's led a community or been a part of a community. It's all sunshine and roses in the beginning, as most communities initially organize themselves with the belief that everyone involved is a leader who has earned their place at the table. This is why many newly formed communities achieve significant success right from the start. Members value each other's company and share a clear perspective on reality, which is that each individual matters, but no one matters more than anyone else. There is no anxiety, pressure, fear, passivity, or struggle for power. Everyone involved is free. Now, success alters this reality. People from outside the community begin to care about what's happening and what this new group of leaders has to say. So now there are stakes, reputations to uphold, and power that must be exercised. Some individuals begin to perceive themselves as mattering more than others. All of a sudden, credit must be given, egos must be stroked, and the land that's been seized must be defended. Other groups emerge to claim a share of the harvested crop for themselves. And inevitably, the community spirit shifts. Of course, nothing is truly changed, but reality can't compete with perception. The community comes to be seen as just a small group of leaders trying to control everything and everyone else. Screw that, say those outside the perceived inner circle. The character, integrity, and motivations of the community and its leaders are scrutinized. Competitors will arise solely from this, promising to achieve the same results as the original community, but with more honorable intentions. It's important to remember that a community is a living organism that must be consistently nurtured and fed. You will make mistakes. There will be times when your community is misaligned and not living up to the definition. I've not living up to the definition that I've given today, and I've been there many times. Don't get discouraged. Keep going. As I mentioned in the beginning, the term community has been diminished to the point of losing its meaning. I think it's time we reclaim it as a space for individuals who are free and unafraid to be themselves. Now, let's go to the next question. Should we tie our identity to the communities we belong to? In today's world, materialism shapes our identity more than ever, defining how we see ourselves and how we want others to see us. We tie our worth to careers, possessions, and social media likes, chasing external markers to feel whole. But this pursuit leaves us hollow, as true identity lies not in what we own or achieve, but in the unchanging soul, the silent, eternal I beneath the noise. My own journey to understand this began with a childhood gift that promised to make me someone special. On my 11th birthday, inspired by my dad's campfire cooking, I asked my parents for a cast iron oven, the kind you use to cook a nice peach cobbler with hot briquettes on the top and bottom. Now, when this thing is unleashed, the cast iron oven is the only show in town. And the person responsible for the cooking, the one with the hook to lift the lid, who always says just 5 more minutes whenever anyone asks how much longer, that person is the star of the show. So I wanted a cast iron oven because I thought it would make me look like a grown-up, mature beyond my years. I wouldn't have understood this then, but I wanted to attach my identity to this thing. I wanted people to say, that's the kid who owns a cast iron oven whenever I rode my bike down the street. I imagined other kids admiring me for owning such a grown-up tool. Now, my older brother's birthday is just 2 days after mine. So we always shared a birthday party with our friends and family where we opened our presents together. I opened my gift first, a cast iron oven, just as I'd begged for, despite my parents' skeptical questions. It was heavy, black, and unremarkable. It's a cast iron oven. My friends stared, unsure what to say. Then my brother unwrapped his gift, a sleek, remote-controlled car that could go anywhere and do anything. And when my oven, cast iron oven, sat unused while we played with my brother's car, I felt a pang of disappointment. Not in the gift, but in my hope that it would make me special. Now, my childhood desire for a cast iron oven reflects a universal tendency to seek identity through possessions, a tendency that persists into adulthood. Our careers, networks, bank accounts, and possessions become the lenses through which we define ourselves. We want to win and grind, yeah, but more than anything else, we want to be seen as someone who wins and grinds. If we can attach ourselves to something others find worthwhile, maybe we'll become worthwhile ourselves. So, LinkedIn posts boasting of 80-hour work weeks, the events we attend, or our latest victories, those aren't just updates. They're pleas for validation. And in a materialistic world, titles and status offer a sense of progress, but they leave us chasing a hollow version of worth. We mistakenly tie our identity to these things. But true identity lies in the unchanging soul, free from transient desires. Let's take the case of a barber versus a tech billionaire. A barber must be present for every haircut, trading hours for dollars. A tech mogul builds an app that mints money while they sleep. You can imagine SaaS subscriptions and AI marketplaces, fortunes that grow on autopilot. It's there you'll find gold and happiness, we're told. Now, the barber clocks out at 6, eats dinner with family, and never misses an important event. No yacht, no Aspen chalet, just a life rooted in presence, not possessions. The world equates success with stuff. So you grind, nights bleeding into mornings, fueled by ambition and caffeine, chasing one more feature, one more deal, one more LinkedIn post to prove you're still at it past 10:30 p.m. One more missed kids' soccer game, another missed dance recital. Worth it, we're told. We buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like, Fight Club taught us. Shirtless Brad Pitt delivered the line, a Greek god's physique distracting from an important message. Speaking of God, we've heard tales of one who walked the earth long ago. Long ago. Guard yourselves from every kind of greed, he said. Life is not about having a lot of material possessions. Society crowns the likes of Jobs, Musk, and Bezos as gods of ambition. Tight and sure, but the one to emulate revealed himself long ago. And this struggle isn't new. In Plato's Phaedo, Socrates saw the body as a trap, pulling us toward temporary desires like wealth or fame. He argued our true self is the soul, unchanging and free from external needs. Today, he'd see our curated LinkedIn profiles as distractions from that deeper identity and urge us to seek the soul's quiet truth. Jesuit priest Anthony de Mello refers to this as the difference between I and me. Me is the persona, our thoughts, feelings, roles, culture, and memory. I is the unchanging observer, silent, watching, free. Labels belong to me. When a LinkedIn post flops, me feels worthless, but I remain steady, watching without judgment. Our lifelong battle is to separate I from me, freeing ourselves from the suffering of external validation. Now, what would it look like to define yourself not by what you own or achieve, but by the unchanging I within? What would it be like if you showed up in your communities completely free, without any dependence or need to attach your identity to them? The communities you belong to are part of me, not I. The best communities create a space for individuals who are free and unafraid to be themselves. Now let's talk about what you're responsible for. Everyone has felt the weight of responsibility, the burden associated with being a leader, or otherwise needing to show up for those who matter most in your life. It can take an immense toll on a person. I may have ended up in the hospital a couple of years ago due to this toll. I'll save that story for later. As it relates to being a community leader, ask yourself, what is my responsibility? Our communities are facing a mental health and identity crisis that none of us knows how to address. I don't know either, but I can say that you cannot, should not, and do not need to shoulder the weight of responsibility by yourself. This is why communities are so beautiful. You're surrounded by people willing and able to lock arms with you and face the unknown together. I remember the first time I felt the weight of responsibility. I was young, recently married, and making $7.25 an hour managing a Gandolfo's Deli in my hometown. One night, as newlyweds in Spanish Fork, Utah are wont to do, we went to the dollar store. We left with some Milk Duds, 2 Dr. Peppers, and a dollar store pregnancy test. We'd set ourselves up for a wild night. When we returned home, riding high on Dr. Pepper and sugar beads, she took the pregnancy test into the bathroom laughing. She didn't come out laughing. It was positive. No need for alarm, I thought. It's just a cheap dollar store test. We got back in the car and bought a real expensive one. Then it was back to the bathroom, this time with a nervous laugh, while I paced in the hallway. Another positive result. We repeated this process several times, achieving the same result each time. I quickly calculated, as many of you would, how much money we'd wasted on all of those expensive tests. Then reality set in. Shit. Holding one of the positive tests, I sat on the bathtub's edge. It was there, facing an uncertain future, that I felt responsibility's weight for the first time. It was heavier than I expected it to feel. But there was no point in asking how it happened. As the old saying goes, if a man's going to eat fried chicken, he's got to get greasy. The time had come to grow up and take responsibility. It didn't matter that we were kids ourselves. That positive test led to my son Parker. He just turned 20 this month, just like a week ago. When he was 17 years old, he was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. He was still a senior in high school. The next year was brutal, but then one day we found out he was cancer-free. I remember leaving that doctor's appointment feeling lighter, the weight of responsibility subsiding for the time being, knowing my most cherished responsibility was sticking around. To accept responsibility for someone or something is no small matter. At times, the weight can feel unbearable, unfair, and unnecessary. Why must we pay a mental and physical toll to live a life? I don't know, but keep going. A little grease is worth it. And always remember, you're surrounded by people willing and able to lock arms with you, to face the unknown together. That's the power of community. You're not alone on your journey. Chin up, shoulders back, onward, ever onward. You've got work to do. Thank you for joining today. In my next live stream, I'll discuss a leadership framework for community leaders. In the meantime, join the Community Leaders Council on CEO.com so we can continue this discussion. I'll see you all next time. And for those who are already on, you can stream this, and there are people who are on the Silicon Slopes platform right now who are on there. I'm going to go to you, and you can raise your hand and ask questions. We can have discussions. For everyone else, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.